Imagine we travel together to the High Middle Ages, a time that lies between the 11th and 13th centuries, specifically from around 1050 to 1250. During this phase, Europe experienced tremendous changes that forever shaped the continent's identity. If you have always wanted to know why the High Middle Ages are so important, then buckle up, because we are about to dive deep into this fascinating epoch. The High Middle Ages were a turning point in European history. Before this period, in the early Middle Ages, life was rather simple and rural. However, from the middle of the 11th century, profound changes began to unfold. Europe started to awaken, not only culturally, but also economically and politically. One reason for this was the rapid population growth. More people meant that new areas had to be explored to produce enough food. Agriculture advanced, and new trade routes emerged, bringing prosperity to the cities. This economic boom led to the development of crafts and even the formation of an early banking system, especially in the trading centers of northern Italy. Imagine cities like Florence and Venice experiencing an economic boom that not only filled local markets, but also promoted international trade. Due to these economic developments, people became more geographically and socially mobile, meaning many had the opportunity to move to new areas or even rise to a different social class. But the High Middle Ages were not just a time of economic growth. There was also much cultural activity. The Church, which had by now established itself in many parts of Northern and Eastern Europe, played a central role in the daily lives of people. However, this also brought conflicts, as secular rulers and the Church frequently clashed, particularly in the so-called investiture controversy. This conflict revolved around who had the right to appoint bishops, the Church or the king. The Pope wanted more power, but the kings were unwilling to relinquish theirs, leading to tensions that shaped political affairs in Europe for centuries. Amidst these power struggles, spiritual movements also flourished. New orders like the Cistercians and Premonstratensians emerged, changing the spiritual life of Europe. They emphasized simplicity and humility, which influenced the architectural style of the churches and monasteries of that time. At the same time, education gained importance. The first universities were founded, including renowned institutions like the University of Bologna, particularly known for its law programs. Theology and medicine also saw a resurgence, especially in France. This development was partly due to the rediscovery of ancient texts, which reached Europe through contact with the Arabic and Byzantine worlds. But it was not just about theology and law. The laity, or the common people who were not part of the Church, began to learn reading and writing, a privilege that had previously been reserved almost exclusively for clergy. In the High Middle Ages, this changed. Literature and poetry became more popular, and themes were no longer limited to religious topics. Stories about knights and their adventures captured the hearts of people. The Romanesque architectural style, characterized by massive stone buildings and rounded arches, dominated architecture. Speaking of knights, the High Middle Ages were also the peak of chivalry. The Crusades in the Near East, as well as in southern Spain and the Baltic region, shaped the self-understanding of knights. The struggles against the infidels were seen as a holy mission, and many knights joined orders like the Templars to defend their faith with the sword. While the social and cultural life in Europe was developing, significant political changes were also underway. The Holy Roman Empire, which had been a dominant power in the early Middle Ages, began to lose influence. The rule of the Salian dynasty was shaken by the investiture controversy. The Hohenstaufen who followed them could not recover these losses. At the same time, other powers gained influence, especially France and England. In the 12th and 13th centuries, the French kings consolidated their power, laying the groundwork for France's rise as the leading nation in Europe. England played a significant role too. The Plantagenet royal house possessed extensive territories in France, which repeatedly led to conflicts with the French kings. These struggles spanned centuries and laid the foundation for the 100 Years' War, which would later break out in the late Middle Ages. But the world outside Europe was also changing. Byzantium, the once mighty Eastern Roman Empire, lost large parts of Anatolia to the Seljuks, a Turkish people, in the 11th century. Although it regained some territories in the 12th century, after the Fourth Crusade in 1204, Byzantium was reduced to a regional power. In summary, the High Middle Ages was a time of upheaval and new beginnings. The economy, politics, culture, and religion developed rapidly and laid the foundation for the later Europe we know today. The world we live in would not be the same without this epoch. In the final part of our journey into the High Middle Ages, I want to touch on another important aspect: the rise of cities. While life in the early Middle Ages was primarily rural, cities began to flourish in the High Middle Ages and developed into new centers of trade, culture, and political power. Thanks to the economic upturn driven by flourishing trade and craftsmanship, more and more people moved from the countryside to the cities. As a result, these cities grew rapidly, giving rise to a new confident class of citizens, consisting of merchants, craftsmen, and the educated. This bourgeois class played a decisive role in urban society and influenced its development. Cities began to assert themselves politically, and many fought for greater independence from local lords. In northern Germany, the Hanseatic League emerged, a powerful alliance of trading cities that advanced international trade and solidified the city's influence. Cities like Lübeck and Hamburg became significant hubs in trade with other European regions. Culturally, the cities were also bustling. Markets and fairs not only brought commerce, but also entertainment and new ideas. Knights' tournaments, festivals, and religious celebrations attracted people and created a communal urban life. One could say that the High Middle Ages laid the foundation for the modern city and the bourgeois life that continues to shape Europe today. As we delve deeper into the High Middle Ages, it's essential to recognize the complexities of this transformative period. One of the most significant aspects was the profound impact of the feudal system, which structured society in a hierarchy of lords, vassals, and serfs. This system created a network of loyalties and obligations that shaped political and social relations across Europe. Lords granted land to vassals in exchange for military service, while serfs worked the land, bound to it in a form of serfdom. Despite its limitations, this system provided stability and order in a time when security was often fragile. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the channel. In the near future, there will be more videos on the topic of the Middle Ages, Crusades, and much more. We will then take a closer look at the most important aspects of our human history. Stay tuned, and see you next time.